A game that's not out, a game that was cancelled, and a game that's not even a game. The second part of Prime Video's video game anthology series Secret Level is here with a bit of a mixed bag of stories and animation. If you haven't seen my part 1 version, which has episodes 1 to 8, do check that out, but here we have the final batch, including entries from The Outer Worlds, Mega Man, and Concord?
Is that still a thing?
I've also left timestamps below so you can check out all the episodes. Now grab some delicious Nebula nectar and like and subscribe because here we go. Well, I thought my love life was shitty until I watched the Outer Worlds episode of Secret Level. For those of you unfamiliar with the game, it was developed by Obsidian Entertainment, the same guys who did Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 and Fallout New Vegas. We follow good old honest Amos, a garbage worker who cannot tell a lie.
I'm no good at lying. I can't lie.
In fact, Amos is such a stand-up guy that he refuses to lie about where he got this experiment poster from, resulting in having to work an extra month just to pay for it, even after the interviewer said it's okay if he lies. This will become important near the end of the story. As you can imagine, life on Argos Mining is pretty shitty, but when Amos finds out the love of his life, Dr. Felicity Caro, is the lead scientist in a new slew of experiments needing test subjects, he'll do absolutely anything to sign up. Amos met Felicity when she was a meager junk hauler like him and instantly fell in love with her kindness and charm. She always dreamed of living a greater life by making products that help colonists everywhere, and what better way to do this than by joining Auntie Cleo, a giant corporation known primarily for its manufacturing of cosmetics and pharmaceuticals. She ends up leaving to pursue her dreams of changing the world, and what is presumably years later, now that Felicity becomes a doctor, Amos travels to the Numa experimental station as a test subject in the hopes of seeing her again. Amos undergoes over 100 near-lethal experiments, from applying acid to vicious raptidon bites, until he finally reunites with Felicity. She's up for a promotion to become the next Auntie Cleo, which he states isn't just a person, but an idea. But to get this promotion, she'll have to boost profits, which means stopping the testing altogether. No testing means they can get their products out quicker, save money, and let the market decide if a product is good or not, but this also means people will die as a result. So Amos is in a tough spot. Does he hide this secret that could harm millions of people, or does he keep quiet for the girl he loves? Thankfully, he decides to do the right thing and go straight to the chairman to expose Felicity's evil plot. But upon entering his office, there is Felicity. She tells him how self-centered and ruthless she's been, stepping on people to get to the top and conducting experiments that hurt people. She wants this promotion more than anything. In fact, she says she needs it. She asks Amos if she's a bad person, and for the first time, Amos tells a lie. He doesn't have the strength to tell her that she is, that what she is doing is wrong. In fact, he tells her to go and become Auntie Cleo and who she wants to be. Amos's decision here makes this story a tragedy. He ends up sacrificing his values and is left utterly alone, tossed aside like a piece of trash he'd find at his garbage dump. This is a man who gave up his literal body to the company and his soul to this woman, only to get dismissed by both. He is exploited both by the company and the person he loves, who I argue never even loved him in the first place. For the company and Felicity, Amos is merely a means to an end. In fact, this final shot of Felicity almost implies this speech was all a ruse to prevent Amos from telling the truth. Early on in the story, Amos says that his biggest fear would be to live a meaningless life and to die alone, and the great tragedy of this story is that he'll do just that. There are not many games that reach the beloved status like Mega Man. I can still remember sneaking away on Christmas to play Mega Man X on the Super Nintendo. Debuting in 1987, the Mega Man franchise has gone on to spawn more than 50 games and spin-offs, with Mega Man himself being one of the most iconic figures in video game history. I even remember the Mega Man television show. So when I heard Secret Level was making an episode, I knew I had to watch. We begin with Metal Man attacking Mega City. Metal Man was a robot created by Dr. Wily, the overarching antagonist from the games. We'll actually hear his name mentioned several times in the episode, and he was the one responsible for sending this mini robot to take control of Bomb Man. You might have noticed that both Mega Man and Bomb Man have these numbers on their chests, which are their unique serial numbers that differentiate them from over 115 different different types of robot masters. A robot master is the name used to refer to the humanoid boss robots from the original Mega Man series. When we start off, Dr. Light and his robot boy assistant Rock intend on using Bomb Man to fight off Dr. Wily. Rock's name is the first in a string of musically themed names which include Rock's sister, Roll, his robot companion Treble, and the robotic bird, Beat. Rock so wants to prove to Dr. Light that he can fight, but the doc isn't willing to risk his boy. It's only when Rock proves he's a match for Bomb Man by blasting him to smithereens with his Mega Buster, upgraded to the Ice Slasher ability, that Dr. Light sends Rock out into the world to save the city. The moral of the story being that sometimes that what we're made for isn't what we're meant for. But let me know what you thought of Mega Man. Personally, I was looking for a bit more action and to see more of the world, but what can you do? Up next is Exodus. No, we're not talking about the epic 1991 Nintendo game where you play as Moses, although that would be pretty sick. Exodus is a game from Archetype Entertainment, first announced at the Game Awards in 2023, and it might not even come out till 2026. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about an episode for a game that's not even out. However, from the gameplay I've seen, it looks like a spiritual successor to Mass Effect, which is definitely not a bad thing. The universe of Exodus sees humanity pitted against an alien race known as the Celestials. What the show doesn't really go into is this whole backstory on how a woman named Maxine Trent uncovered a celestial artifact that allowed humanity to travel at the speed of light. This spawned a group of intergalactic treasure hunters known as Travelers to search the vast reaches of space for more artifacts that will provide humanity with further breakthroughs. At its core, the Exodus episode is all about a father's love for his child. When his daughter Mari takes off to become a traveler, Nick follows after her, but is always one step behind. This is due in part to something called time dilation. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. So while Mari spends 8 years on a planet called Scotia searching for artifacts, her father only spends 1 trying to catch up to her, because he's going at the speed of light while she is not. If you've seen the film Interstellar, you'll know what I mean. Eventually, Nick volunteers himself to become an indentured human servant to the Celestials after he finds out his daughter is wanted by them. It's easier for him to stay put and have the Celestials apprehend her than to continue this chase. Eventually, he'll reunite with his daughter, but 53 years have passed for her and only 11 for him. In the episode's final act, he rescues her from a celestial attack in which she's severely injured. Nick is able to spend Mari's final days with her until she eventually dies, taking solace in the fact his daughter lived a life of adventure which she always wanted. What was a 15-year journey for Nick was 83 for those on the planet Lydon, where our story first began. The woman Nick had a drink with at the beginning now has an adult granddaughter who has taken over her job, and Nick leaves her with a fancy celestial relic to compensate for the money her grandmother paid him to get off world 83 years ago. But the film ends with Nick flying off to this planet, a planet he and his daughter talked about in their final moments together. In this way, he continues her legacy of adventure. What I'm curious about is if this theme of time dilation will become a factor in the game. Can your character come back to different planets and people have gotten older or events have changed? That could be a very interesting take for a video game to explore. Who doesn't like to say the word Spelunky? It's just a fun word to say. Originally created in 2008 for Windows, this platformer was incredibly popular with many sites and reviewers, including IGN,
Oh god, no.
placing it in their top 100 games of all time. This particular episode follows Anna Spelunky, who first made her appearance in Spelunky 2, and in the game her goal is to save her parents. However, in this episode she wants to amass various treasure. Like the game, the show takes on an almost Indiana Jones aesthetic as Anna traverses different levels in her quest. Each death Anna receives takes her back to the beginning of the mine to start all over again, and it's here we meet famous spelunker Liz Mutton, who is a playable character in Spelunky 2. She's the one responsible for changing Anna's outlook on death. In the beginning, Anna doesn't really care about death. If it happens, you just get up and start over, but Liz says,
Death isn't something you should just shake off.
In fact, Liz has an almost reverence for death, as only by recognizing its power can you truly appreciate life. As Anna continues to die, she becomes frustrated and forgets why she was even taking on this adventure in the first place. But when she realizes all these markings Liz etched on the rock aren't just her deaths, but also her adventures, she sees this place in a whole new light. Liz literally passes on the torch to her as Anna begins to revere the place she once took for granted. By the end of the episode, Anna goes back into the minds now reinvigorated with a new perspective on life, death, and adventure. It's no secret that online multiplayer shooters like Overwatch, Counter-Strike, and Fortnite have been incredibly popular, so in 2023, Sony bought developer Firewalk Studios, who had been in development on a new project called Concord, a project with an estimated budget of $400 million. Yet in its first 2 weeks, the game sold fewer than 25,000 copies, at which time Sony pulled the plug, making it one of the biggest failures in video game history. Now, Concord the game came out in August of 2024. The same month, Secret Level was announced at Gamescom with its own trailer, so the episode was likely already finished or at least nearing completion by the time the game had flopped. And since the producers of the show see Secret Level as a celebration of gaming, they decided to keep it in. But really, they probably didn't want to waste the millions it took to make one of these shorts. Now, I never got the honor to play this esteemed title, but the story in Secret Level came across as budget Guardians of the Galaxy, with nothing particularly new or exciting to keep me interested. And that was actually one of the main criticisms for Concord's failure. It didn't provide something new to set itself apart from an already saturated market. And for an episode based off a shooter, there is surprisingly little shooting aside from the escape at the beginning. The show follows a group of free gunners as they attempt to escape with a chip containing all the galaxy's safe trade routes. These routes were held secret by an organization known as the Guild, whose tight control over them allowed for an exploitative monopoly. So this group of pirates aims to sell these routes to the highest bidder, but end up getting chased to the edge of the Tempest. This giant storm is taken directly from the lore of the game. It mysteriously appeared 82 years before the events of Concord and split the galaxy in two, consuming anything that gets in the way. No one who's entered it has ever come out alive. By the end of the episode, the free gunners have to make a choice: give up the stolen trade routes or enter the Tempest. The captain, Cassie, in a heroic act, uploads the trade routes to everyone in the galaxy so that everyone can have equal access. She proceeds to then enter the storm. Everyone on the ship is enveloped in this neon glow of light as her final shot sees Cassie pushing deeper into the storm as a tear streaks down her face. It's almost as if this storm has a calming effect on everyone. They're not panicking, leaving the viewer to wonder what lies deeper within. The episode ends with the narrator stating no one knows what happened to the crew, but he has this little figurine which gives off an electric charge. We saw this figurine earlier on belonging to one of the crew members, so it hints that the crew did make it out. I also thought it was an interesting choice that none of the characters in the show are from the game, which would make sense if this is supposed to be a sort of prequel to the game, but really none of it even matters because you can't even play it. If any of you actually played the game, I do want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Honor of Kings is one of the world's biggest multiplayer online battle arenas with over 120 characters in its arsenal of heroes. And it just so happens that one of the game's newest characters, Yi Jing, is the focus of our final Secret Level episode. And apologies on butchering all these names. Set in the capital city of Chang'an, Yi ventures to challenge the Tiangong, a mythical entity that controls the city. Yi believes the Tiangong were responsible for the death of his parents and wants revenge. For the person who defeats the Tiangong gains control of the city and the immense power that comes with it. In the beginning, we see a group of mad men outside the palace. These are all the people who faced the Tiangong and failed. Those who take him on can face him in any game of their choosing, but it seems a futile effort since this entity can see into the future. If he knows every move you're going to make, there's nothing he won't be able to beat you in, especially when it comes to the game of Go, which Yi challenges him to. In the video game, Yi is a Go prodigy, with all his attacks having to do with this board game. It was this game that helped him take his mind off the pain of losing his parents, and hence why he played it so much. The reason Yi thinks he can take on the Tiangong is that he believes in free will. If there is such a thing as free will, then the Tiangong can't possibly see into the future, as he would not know what choices an individual would make. Now this is where things get a bit confusing and can be open to interpretation. When Yi figures out that the board they play on has consequences in the real world, he is willing to sacrifice himself just like his parents sacrificed themselves for him. By putting his pieces in the heart of the city where they currently are, he could effectively have the palace implode on them. Thus, the Tiangong must choose whether to continue the game, killing the both of them, or concede. The Tiangong concedes, but nothing is really as it seems. Yi emerges from the palace as the new Tiangong. There's even a statue of him as he comes out, which wasn't there before. We'll also see a ladybug land on him, which is a recurring motif throughout the episode. Ladybugs often represent transformation, but off in the distance is the real Tiangong watching this unfold. He's actually not in the distance but back in the temple watching a vision of the future. So everything we just saw never happened, rather it was a potential future. As the Tiangong said,
For the Tiangong, there's no difference between remembering the past and imagining the future.
So the ending is really like the beginning, or is the beginning really like the end? That's the open-ended nature of this episode. But what ending do you think is better? Is Yi the new Tiangong, or has Tiangong seen the future and can prevent his own demise? The secret level episode titled Playtime isn't based on any one particular game, rather an excuse to put Kratos in the trailer. This might actually be my least favorite episode of all, as it doesn't really offer a unique story, and the main character wasn't compelling enough to keep me interested. But hey, Kevin Hart and his daughter got to voice the two main characters. The entire story is pretty generic. A young girl named O, which also happens to be one of the shapes on the PlayStation controller, receives a mysterious package which she has to deliver, all the while being chased by iconic PlayStation characters such as a Colossus from Shadow of the Colossus, Helldivers, and even the God of War Kratos himself. Partner turned villain BuddyBot looks to be inspired by Astrobot. We have Sackboy from Little Big Planet. O wears PlayStation earrings, and the room she ends up in at the end is filled with posters of various PlayStation games, including Journey. Turns out this whole thing was a test that she passed, and she wants to play again. I was really hoping, considering the amount of money that are put into these episodes, that we would have gotten a more compelling story instead of a nostalgia-fueled, hey, remember this, generic tale. But overall, I think Secret Level was actually pretty good. If they were to do a season 2, I'd want them to take on a few more notable franchises, and consider taking even more risks like they did with the Pac-Man episode. But what did you think, and what would your top episodes be? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.